Introduction: the audio reading of Dodo Na Ginny written by Evo Maunai. Dodo Na Ginny. Blood and Dominion. Prologue. Echoes of Screams. 1. The bleak, empty, oppressive darkness was all that surrounded me. My sight was obstructed by this vast, dominating void. I stood alone in this nothingness. Though my body hadn't materialized, my consciousness still existed in this astral dimension. Against my will, I felt my metaphysical self shift, turning frantically, seeking any source of light or sign of life. Moving felt laborious, as if wading through quicksand. The atmosphere was tenebrous, dense, and heavy. Panic arose as I realized I was seemingly the only living being in this dark ocean of non-existence. As I searched for a way out of this purgatory, my conscious sight landed on two glowing crimson orbs. These spheres floated in the ether. The moment they entered my vision, I was instantly captivated, yet full of dread. Dimly glowing and ominous, they drifted on the sea of darkness like two blood-red lifebuoys atop a calm, deep, inky black ocean. There was no visible figure accompanying these rounded objects. They hung in the darkness at their own accord. Suddenly, my vision moved, quickly sailing towards the two spheroids. Any distance between myself and those eerie, unexplained objects rapidly lessened. I was now right in front of them, separated by perhaps only a foot or so. Up close, I finally realized these carmine, red globes were two eyes. They stared at me, large and wide. The whites of the sclerae were too dim to see, yet the irises were luminous, almost an angry red, resembling the eerie eyesheen emitted by a large predator hunting at night. The disembodied eyes bore into my soul. If I had a body, I would have run, but I was incapable of movement. Four dark outlines bordered the eyeballs, eyelids, I assumed, made from the same empty darkness that enveloped both the figure and me. I was caught in this specter's gaze. Its dull yet glowing scarlet eyes were the only source of light in this deep, expansive, unyielding pitch blackness. Once the creature became aware of my presence, its eyelids widened. Its stare transformed from an extrospective curiosity to a possessive, predatory hunger. The thing was clouded in darkness and mystery, conveying an aura of danger. Yet, its eyes also displayed a crazed, obsessive craving. The longing in its eyes scared me more than the eyes themselves. It seemed to be yearning for something. I deeply hoped its yearning was not for me. 2. I heard a deep, animalistic, primal growl emitting from it. I was utterly terrified, a fear I couldn't describe. I wanted to be anywhere but here, in front of this unknowable beast. The growl rumbled and echoed, which perplexed me. The echoing seemed to confirm that this expansive, shadowy plane was not endless and must have had some form of surface for the sound to reflect off. Its growl slowly turned into a sinister chuckle, and my attention snapped back to the creature. Here, I would have cried from fear, but due to my lack of a physical body, no tears came. Its chuckle was now accompanied by a wide, terrifying grin. The beginnings of an uncomfortably grotesque smile formed in the darkness just below its eyes. With the smile, I could see its teeth. Their color was unlike anything I had seen before. They looked almost metallic, a burnt iron shade of gray. They indeed looked sharp like blades. The edges of its teeth had no lips or gums, just the stark blackness that encompassed its eyes. Its fangs were shaped human-like, yet the edges of its incisors and premolars looked serrated, and the canines protruded down too far, resembling miniature daggers. Even the molars had serrated sharpness. Both rows looked uncanny. The monster's red eyes reflected off the unnervingly long fangs. I was forced to witness as the creature taunted me with its deep, booming chuckle. Oddly, its voice still sounded human, an extremely low, deep, raspy baritone, menacing nonetheless. Then I heard my name. Jamila, it said in its deep, husky voice. The rough, ragged cadence of the syllables rolling off its tongue filled me with trepidation. It called my name again, unnerving and terrifying to hear. Jamila, it repeated in that signature raspy voice. My name was spoken a third and final time, the last syllables stretched out like a soft sigh. Jamila. I had never felt such paralyzing terror. The sound of my name spoken that way, by this horrific thing, chilled me. This time, I sensed a slight longing in its tone. Its voice had a proprietorial feeling. Confused, I was unsure if this creature wanted to possess me or cause me harm. I felt my ethereal self become more frightened with each mention of my name. Suddenly, the creature's eyes grew wider, fixing me with its gaze. I noticed its pupils dilate larger than any human's ever could. The inky blackness of the pupils resembled the vast emptiness of deep space. A type of Lovecraftian terror consumed me. My eyes were fixed on the creature's nerve-wracking, unshifting stare. Then, as if a lightning bolt had flashed, images of my past began to flicker violently in my mind's eye, like a hellish seizure. These were not mere recollections. They were memories that carried a heavy presence, engaging all my senses. I could see, touch, and hear them, almost as if I had gone back in time. 3. In one memory, I saw the group of boys who had viciously teased and bullied me in secondary school. I was back in the boys' toilet, the day I tried to defend myself. The space was always dark, dim lights casting shadows on the dull, lifeless magnolia walls. Graffiti, scuff marks, and dirt covered the painted brick. The air was thick with the putrid smell of excrement and urine. Weak sunlight struggled to pass through the large, dust-coated, frosted windows, the only light in that chronically filthy room. I was back in that moment, the stench in my nostrils, witnessing the filth that reflected the space's neglect. This vile environment was the place where I suffered the most devastating beating I would go through. 3 boys surrounded my younger self, one tall and lanky, one large and stocky, and the third was the shortest, but still intimidating. I was the youngest at 12. Everyone else was 13. I had recently started experimenting with my gender expression, a discovery that had led to months of relentless teasing. The boys knew, and they were ruthless. They had sinister, taunting smiles, asking why I used the cubicle to pee, like a girl. I saw the predatory look in their eyes. The tall leader stared me down with fervent disgust. I glared back daringly, my deep brown eyes fixed on him. My right hand instinctively balled into a fist. The stocky boy scoffed. Look at Khalil, lads, he really thinks he's gonna take all of us on, he snarled. The sudden sound of my dead name, spoken with such malice in the vision, was an emotional blow that almost pushed my consciousness out of the memory. My past self stood shaking with anger and adrenaline. The leader dared me to move. I screamed, "Leave me the fuck alone." It was the biggest mistake. The 3 boys pounced simultaneously, like a pack of ravenous wolves, attacking me without mercy. Fists and limbs flew. I heard my anguished screams and saw my nose pop. There was a distinctive sickening crack as my crimson blood shot out, splattering onto my off-white school shirt. I was bruised and bloody. As the ghost of my former self lost consciousness, the vision dimmed and dissipated. 4. The instant the first vision vanished, a second bleak memory focused into view, the day I finally left home. The vision was stark, filled with the stale smell of old beer and the metallic tang of rage. It was the afternoon of my 16th birthday. My mother, Amina, had abandoned us years earlier, on Zara's 5th birthday, shattering my once doting father. Before Zara was born, Michael had been a loving, proud father, but that man was long gone. Michael never recovered. He turned into an angry alcoholic tyrant, his patriarchal expectations warping into abuse. His drinking stemmed from a family history of addiction, and the tension had been building since Amina vanished. My father, Michael, had been driving with my little sister, Zara. They were coming from Chinatown, driving home after they had collected a custom birthday cake and booked a table at my favorite Chinese restaurant. When he stopped at a red light on Berry Street, he saw me with my friends, sitting on the steps of the Church of St. Luke opposite the car. I was wearing the clothes he hated. An oversized vintage Depeche Mode t-shirt with the crew neck cut off, black leggings, and Doc Martens. I had cut my tight ringlet curls into a messy bob with a blunt fringe months ago. He'd always refer to it as a Ket wig, and my eyes were lined with smudgy black eyeliner. He saw the bottle of cheap cider in my hand. He rolled down the window, his voice a snarl, "Get the fuck into this car now." Embarrassed, and without saying goodbye to the group of friends I had been with, I quickly made my way to the car, jumping into the back seat. Zara looked anxious, looking down. Before I even had time to buckle up, my father sped away. The silence on the drive home was heavy, poisonous. The tension was thick. I held my sister's hand. She was trembling. She knew something bad would happen as soon as we got home, and so did I. I'd been my little sister's surrogate second parent since I was 6. Once our father pulled up to the house, both of us anticipated the worst. Inside, an argument erupted instantly, escalating into a terrifying battle of words. The screaming could have probably been heard all over Hayman's Lane. Michael ripped the rucksack off my back, emptying the contents on the floor. My makeup fell out, along with the tracksuit I wore earlier. I tried muttering apologies, but they were cut short by forceful pushes and threats of his fist in my face. He spoke through clenched teeth. "Why the fuck are you wearing makeup? I've told you 1,000 times, stop painting your face like a fucking fairy." His rant grew, his voice cracking with pure contempt. "You know what? You can dress like a girl all you want, but you're not doing it in my fucking house. I told you 1,000 times, if I catch you doing it again, you're gone." He stomped viciously on the makeup, crushing the compacts and tubes. Then he threw the empty rucksack back at me, yelling, "Go pack a bag and get the fuck out of my house." I silently wept as I picked up the bag, knowing I couldn't stay any longer. Michael watched everything I did, screaming at me to hurry up. I packed only the essentials: my passport, a family photo, the small stuffed dragon teddy gifted to me on the day of my birth, and some clothes. My heart was shattering for Zara. Instantly, my thoughts turned to who was going to protect her during my father's drinking rages. She stood there, sobbing, only 11, too young to truly understand or help. "Let Khalil stay, please," she choked out. The sound of her words struck me in the heart like an arrow. Once I was packed, I gave her a kiss on the forehead, pulled her into one last squeezing hug, before Michael ripped me away from her, dragging me toward the front door. "I'm leaving. I'm leaving." I protested until he let go. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look behind me as I walked out, the door slamming shut, severing the last fragile thread of my childhood. 5. As my past self left my family home, the sorrowful memory began to slowly darken, fading to nothing. A new recollection instantly took its place. This new memory. It felt as real as the others, full and vivid, flooding all my senses. Yet I didn't recognize a thing. The scenery was utterly foreign, an impossible recollection. Unlike the familiar moments that had come before, this one belonged to a time and place I had never lived. My movements felt controlled, as if my sight were the camera capturing the scene in front of me. The vision drew me closer to that dreadful box, though I was utterly afraid to peer into it. What flashed before my mind's eye was a grim, melancholic scene. The lid was open, revealing my deceased sister, Zara, laid still, almost as if she was asleep. Her funeral had not yet taken place in the waking world, but there she was. Within this vivid phantasm, she was already laid out. She no longer resembled my beloved sister. Her skin, once a rich, medium brown sienna tone, had taken on a disturbing, waxy, ashen gray pallor. The fullness of her adorable round face was gone, replaced by hollow, gaunt cheeks. New purple, bruised shadowy discoloration had formed beneath her eyes, and her lips, pale and chapped, possessed a similar ruddy purplish hue to the surrounding facial tissue. The mortician had clearly struggled to apply makeup to her darker skin tone. She was a lifeless, dull, ugly doppelganger, resembling nothing more than a wax figure. It wasn't her. As I stared at the doppelganger, its face began to deform, slowly melding into something terrifying. The soft, malleable, ashen skin started to deepen in color, taking on a shade of absolute black, deeper than any human tissue could possibly achieve, almost like a lump of coal. Its texture resembled the cool, dark matte finish of jet stone. The human-like exterior peeled away, as if an invisible fire were consuming the flesh, exposing a darkened, charcoal-scoured dermis underneath. This tissue was undeniably the result of extreme heat. It looked brittle, utterly desecrated. The doppelganger now resembled the victims of catastrophic flames. Its face reconfigured. The bones and muscles beneath cracked and shifted like a shapeshifter mid-transformation. The sound was grotesque and gruesome, almost like wood or bone splintering in a fierce fire. Features became hollow, sharp, and angular, forming a monstrous, grimacing mask. The creature before me was a dark, desiccated shadow, no longer resembling my sister. The deformed face then stretched its mouth into a disgusting, ear-to-ear grin, revealing the same sharpened fangs. In a flash, the corpse screamed, a deafening, screeching, eldritch noise that filled my mind. I was jolted awake.